war, and and then we had a common yes. I could enter his house anytime I wanted. He too should come in anytime. People who contested election, a lesson for many people, and that journey we went to Yokohama. We took off time and toured private universities in Japan and in Thailand. They have a flourishing operation of private universities in Japan and Thailand. So, the end of our tour, we wrote a paper. Let nobody forget this. We wrote a paper and I took it to Abacha. Abacha signed that they should start operation of private universities. That is the paper that created private universities. So first of all, cooperation, and let me say this: I own 99% of this relationship, the success of this relationship. Many people, you know me, very small thing can spark, and then the relationship will be spoiled. So Hai is the one that has been oiling it and oiling it. So I give credit to Hai. Thank you very much.
I thought Hai was great, so we hurried this thing up. And ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Professor Hai. Professor, I wish you came this way so that we can look at you properly.
Oh my goodness.
Because I say something about Hai and many of you wouldn't know. Can I hand over the microphone to you, sir? Thank you very much, sir.
You want me to use the podium? That is your church, right?
No. Are you okay like that? Yes, that's their church. This is a church. This is an auditorium. This is their podium. They might think
purpose here.
It's
blessed for the purpose of the
Are you the pastor? Pastor? Yes. He is dressed for the purpose of this symposium.
Yes.
Okay. These are the case of David's cases. Thank you very much. Once more, put your hands together.
Let me start by thanking God Almighty for the opportunity to be here today. It's a blessed day. A few days ago, my friend and my leader, Professor David Yodem, don't forget he's my leader, he was my senator. When he told me that I was organizing a symposium without any money, and was I willing to come? So absolutely. Nobody needs to give me a penny to speak at an occasion to remember our leader, Ontario Paul. Because to get me out of my house to speak, both in America and elsewhere now, costs a little. As I'm old, over 75 years old, and I give deference to our leader, chairman of this occasion, the Western General Attorney, and the proprietor who invited me to this event. Professor David Yodem is a great man. He's such a great man that this morning we're contemplating whether the title Wantare should go to him or to Zach Gundu, because this title cannot be just there on the ground. It's not a mean title. For Paul Nongo to labor for over 30 years before finally awarding himself the name Wantare was a struggle. It was a journey that took so many years to attain. I was originally supposed to be on the committee for the burial of Wantare as well. It's a committee that was set up at the SGF. Then, somehow, the governor also set up something and said the governor is the governor and is the charge of Benue State. I think, out of difference, the SGF committee was dissolved or merged into this one. Somehow, the people who did it did not merge me. That is why I seem to be at the periphery. I seem only to be invited to be here because my friend, my leader, the great Professor David Yonen, whom I greatly honor and respect, is here. He did mention something about coming to invite me to contest, and I refused, and later I went to contest on the same election. I was not stabbing him on the back. It was a strong principle I had. The SDP introduced politics of Christians versus Muslims.
Yes.
And I was totally against it. I was in the plateau and I saw the consequences of that type of politics erupting. So I deliberately went to NRC to say that we, Nigeria, should never go that way. Today, when I look back, I was vindicated. Nothing against my brother who won. And as soon as I heard on the radio he won, I went to his house. When he was looking for me, I was looking for him. And we've been together ever since. We've been together because there was a fundamental difference in values in Tigran that must come to a close now that Wantare himself is being laid to rest. I did not originally accept Wantare. I was a young boy in secondary school, being taught by Ezekiel Akiga, first year graduate, and Apereko, first generation TIL graduate. These people were more familiar with Wantare, but Wantare was far away in Canada. They were local champions. Wantare had already globalized and was internationalized. Wantare was exposed to the most profound struggle of the blacks, the struggle for the liberation of black people in the United States, the dismantling of apartheid in South Africa. These were the seminal ideas and ideologies that kind of molded him. And since he was already a brilliant man, when he went to Canada, he did not only study psychology, he was into the politics of Canada. And when Pierre Trudeau, whose son is Prime Minister of today in Canada, was elected Prime Minister, Wantare was on that campaign committee that elected Pierre Trudeau. The rest of the story is exactly as my leader, Professor Yonen, has said, except that Professor Yonen did not say the relationship between Wantare and J.S. Tucker. Because J.S. Tucker was a minister in Yakubu Gowon's cabinet and was actually Minister of Transport. So during the war, it was also a very significant ministry. So when Yakubu Gowon discovered Paul Nongo, and Paul Nongo was Taka's brother, there was a stronger relationship. But Paul came back and he found the old ideas that Taka had, the old system of NA, and the struggle at home, the timidity, the corruption, the agonizing, self-defeating ideology of the chief people as people who had already become fatalistic, who didn't love themselves, who were engaged in pulling others down, didn't want to help one another. Paul Namu found this very reprehensible. He found this totally odious, and he decided that this must change. And coming here, deeply influenced by Martin Luther King Jr., who had written a booklet, Where Do We Go From Here? Paul Namu used that same title of the same Martin Luther King, who was one of the profound ideologues that affected him, to write this great book, Where Do We Go From Here? Establishing a fundamental question of the backwardness of the chief people and how much chief people suffered. Paul Namu presented himself. Where do we go from here was his manifesto. It was his political manifesto. It was also a book that announced totally who he was. Without fear or favor, he announced that he was here for good. And when I look at that little book now, as I said, I was never a Paul Namu person. I was too young to make a statement whether to like him or not like him, but I admired him greatly. Young, handsome, extremely handsome, loquacious, extremely cerebral. Young teen man, started the Department of Psychology. For many of us who later became academicians, it was Paul Namu who pointed the way that it was possible for Chilba to become a lecturer in the university. But I was too young to make a difference, to make a statement about what he was doing. First of all, Where Do We Go From Here was written in a language that was for graduates, not for ordinary people. And up to today, I just did a review of that book a few days ago. I said the book was not written for the chief people. The book was written in the manner of the intellectual Machiavelli, writing to advise the prince on how to conduct business. And so Paul Namu, as a young man, I was in Paul Namu's circle, but I couldn't go near him, so I hung around the periphery. When I finished secondary school, Paul Namu sucked some of my people into his group. People like Dr. Jerusalem were the inner core of what Paul started here in Boko. And we had nightclubs. For the first time, nightclubs, people coming to dance. And I am a timid NKST boy. And this one is introducing corruption in the society. I never went there. But my closest friends went into that system, and Peter Zoho, Solomon Luhu, the Dosai, Jim Compacts, ex-James were the inner core. They went in there. Well, I never got to work with Paul, particularly that his politics was never the politics of my own political idol, J.S. Tucker. It was much, much later that Paul and I discovered that we were talking the same language. We were concerned passionately about the conditions of our chief people. And we worked very hard, as General Pepper said, when the ethnic groups around the Middle Belt were killing Chief people. There is still an anti-Chief sentiment in this country. There is still a sense in which if you kill a Chief man, it doesn't really matter. They are bad people anyway. They are too ethnocentric, too concerned with themselves, and that they don't like you anyway. Well, the truth is that the Chief people don't like themselves either. So when Paul and I discovered ourselves, we never left each other. The last political outing that Paul did was to order me to come to his Peniel apartment in Jos, and which I did. I called him my leader in all sense of the word, and he called me my professor. He read every book I wrote and encouraged me to write more. Behind my back, he would slyly call me Dogoahi. And I loved that because very few of us in Timland are committed to the TIF agenda totally. Not just because TIF are a persecuted race, but because we stand for the downtrodden, we stand for the oppressed, and we do not care. As I stand here, my credo is to support the underdog and the oppressed person. But if the oppressed person of today becomes the oppressor, tomorrow I abandon him or her. And I've done that politically in Timland. I've seen how people who had no clue why we struggled for state creation and then for creation of local governments and for governance here in Benue. No clue. They simply look at being governor or commissioner or minister as a jackpot they won for themselves and their families and not even for TACTIV. That is a problem. I want to briefly say this. Wantare or Nongo is a colossal loss, not just to the Chief people, but to the whole of this country. But for Wantare, assembling like-minded intellectuals in 1978 at the Constitutional Conference, Nigeria would have been divided. We would have had the Sharia written into the Constitution, and the country would have been divided along Muslim and non-Muslim categories. Wantare led that group. Wantare also helped this country greatly because, as Professor David Yonem said, if Wantare and Reverend Father Akor, a team of two of them that traveled Canada and United States, making a very strong case that they are Northerners, they are Christians. So the war cannot be a war between Christians and non-Christians. That helped very much to gain the support for the Federal Republic of Nigeria by support from Canada and the United States. If these two had supported completely Biafra, there would have been no Nigeria today. The form that it is. Those were the two contributions. The third contribution of Wantare was during the fragile attempt to get back into the Second Republic, the NPN did not quite form a government. There was a narrow majority. Wantare was able to join with the MPN, he being the secretary of MPP, to establish the MPP-NPN Accord, which enabled the democracy to take off after many years of military rule. Wantare was the one who brought the spirit of entrepreneurship in Tivland. We were primitive people, very proud to be farmers, disdaining entrepreneurship and trade of whatsoever kind. I remember my father warning me very sternly that you should never ever put your hand in this thing called business. It's not meant for educated people. Concentrate on your career as an intellectual. Well, I believed in him. That is why I'm not a rich man today. It is good that Tea people too started with Bonango and became entrepreneurs. The legacy of Bonango on politics cannot be described. He has left a major mark. He created a major political movement in Tivland that did not depend on bribe, did not depend on money, but depend totally on ideology and commitment. Bonango's followers never used money, never were tired, always never rested. They campaigned without ceasing. Even if you didn't give them food, there was politics of conviction. These were some of the things that Bonango introduced to Nigeria, an ideology of commitment. I can go on and on. There was no Nigerian military leader from Yakubu Gowon to Abdul Salami that did not have Bonango as their advisor, as part of the inner core of advisors. Many times during Buhari's government, Bo had access to him, which no other chief man had. And we thank God for allowing Bo to live this long. J.S. Tata died at 47, Aperiku died at 48, and all our people who knew people outside Tivland just died away. We now have General Tonkora with us, who God has blessed to continue to live younger and younger. And now that Wantare is gone, maybe the title of Wantare might go to him. We know he will not accept, but Wantare also cannot other things. I want to say that the biggest weakness in Wantare was, even though he was completely intellectually, absolutely correct all the times, his study of being a psychopathologist made him oftentimes to be impatient with people who did not operate at the intellectual wavelength with him.
Yes.
This put him at loggerheads with people who came to help him. If you came to help him build a house, he knew more than you,
Yes.
how the house should be. If you were running his school, he would tell you you were running it the wrong way. If he set up a medical hospital,
He's the doctor.
and you were the consultant, he will come and dismiss you at a whim. This is not typical. There was nothing wrong with Bonango. He was a leader. He was a creator of ideas. All he needed was bolts and nuts people. who will come and implement these ideas. The one man whom I knew who was a bolt and not person was Professor David Yone.
Yeah.
And when Yone came together with Unongo, they could have gone a long way. Somehow, I don't know what happened, but Yone decided that he was not going to tolerate politics because Unongo suffered attrition. Civil society is very vindictive. Paul said it. They looked at Paul as being disloyal to J.S. Tucker. And the people who lived said as long as Paul lived, they will never accept him to win even a local government election. And truly, Paul contested governorship many times. He contested Senate many times. He even contested presidential flag bearer of his party, the SDP, on option A4 to win in Benue State. He did not win. For all this, Paul never gave up being an ideologue. All the constitutional conference he came. I had the opportunity of serving with him in the constitutional conference, and I nominated Paul to be chairman of the committee for the creation of new states in Nigeria. Of course, we failed because we were hoping to create a Katsina state, and we supported the creation of Upper State. It will shock you, the people who were against the creation of another state outside Chief Benue State. It was history repeating itself. Sadly, the J.S. Tucker should never be blamed for not supporting the creation of local governments. J.S. Tucker actually worked hard for the creation of states. So why couldn't he create local governments? But when Paul came, Paul, we understood, and he often said himself that he was Tucker's secretary. What went wrong? If people must learn to work together. If Paul and Tucker had worked together, there's no way that the chief people would not have taken over. One of them would have been president of Nigeria, one way or the other today.
Yes.
If Paul and other people had stayed together, if Paul had stepped aside and supported one person, say, Professor, I'm supporting you. The times he did not want to contest for governorship is the time he should have contested, the time he put Paul Ogbelabo. The time he should not have contested was when he came to contest with younger people. Until society was malicious and wicked and denied him, didn't give him the mandate. That is also a lesson for us. Today, people like Professor Jibo are warning teen people, stop being divisive and vindictive. If teen people were to come together to have one voice, if they can have that spirit which I have, which Professor David Yone has. Interestingly, I got that spirit from J.S. Tucker. He never had a political enemy. If the Tucker spirit and the Onongo spirit can come together, then we expect the governor of Benue State and the SGF to work together.
Yes.
We'll lead the same If we had the same spirit that Professor Yone and I, we just did a political contest, he won, I didn't win. And when I was in authority, I had authority to make his life feel better, along with me. And if I'm going somewhere else to bury my brother, and he stopped and said there's a symposium, and I stopped, I lose nothing. We need to work hard. Otherwise, Nigeria is laughing at you people. We need to love one another. We need to minimally respect one another. This is not happening, and we must do it. Just last week, Friday, I was attending another funeral, and I advised young people, you win today, and you say you don't want to have anything with all the others, their ancestors. Well, you should pray God gives you the age to become that ancestor too, because the younger generation will make you an ancestor. So how much longer will young people come, refuse to have anything to do with the older regime, older brigade, older people like me who work with Abednego and J.S. Tucker. So you have nothing to do with I has nothing to do with you. I mind my business, but you are losing something. You are losing the mistakes that I made in my time, which you could learn from and avoid it, and less harm will be done to our people. I want to advise all the chief elite, stop this stupid competition. What are you competing for? Is it about cars, or about houses, or about the type of crowd, or is it about the food you are eating? All this mean nothing. Stand for one another, love each other, build harmony for Tiv land. Tiv people are one of the largest ethnic groups in this country, and we are still growing. The Tiv language should even be a national language, because when you look at Yoruba and Igbo, these languages were created. You look at the growth of Hausa language across the whole of West Africa. The Totiv is a talk of a tribe, a huge tribe. The many Tiv people that are growing up and being born in places like Niger State, they are putting tribal marks on themselves. And if you look at them, you think they are Hausas. They are Tiv. The genocide against the Tiv people in Taraba is real, and it is still going on. There's so much ethnic racism going on there that very soon people who want to survive there will start giving themselves Jukun names. Because the government itself issued a white paper declaring that the people are visitors to Taraba. So that if you are in trouble with one target gun, you have to sit and find your center. Find yourselves. And the onus is on those who are in power. I challenge them to greater humility. I challenge them to greater cooperation. I challenge them to greater responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Doctor, can you see that dynamite?
You want me to be part of that?
Yes.
Yes, I should.
What? She's like, out. Okay, you know. Very nice, very nice. No enemy, there is no enemy. It will be enemies. I agree. We hear it. You have recorded it. Let us play it where everybody can hear. Please. Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Professor Hai, the symposium wants to deeply appreciate you and say we want to thank you very much for all that you have seen and all that you have done.